All right, so let's take the news update now. What would have been a shutdown of the economy was averted as the federal government and organized labor reached a truce on the consequential adjustment of the minimum wage in the early hours of this morning. As agreed by the parties, workers on grade level 7 will now have their salaries adjusted by 23.2%. Now, grade 8, level 8 by 20%, level 9 by 19%, levels 10 to 14 by 16%, and levels 15 to 17 by 14%. The federal government is to transmit the collective bargaining agreement to states for implementation. And the Federal Ministry of Transport and relevant agencies have received a presidential order to address safety issues in Nigeria. President Muhammadu Buhari was commiserating with victims of the fire incident in Onitsha, Anambra State. TVC News' Bamidele Ajayi visited the scene and sent in this report.
24 hours after the inferno, traders scavenged through what used to be their treasure base. There are reports that not less than 500 shops were destroyed, and with them, billions of naira.
If the state can come again.
Chukwuma Onoga is one of the traders counting their losses. He runs a boutique business, but is now left with nothing.
Common pin, about 2 shops where I have here, 2 packets, so I did not get even 1 pin of anything out. I have no less than goods of up to 3 million something in the shop here, the center, or more than that.
He, however, pleaded with the state government to come to his aid and assist in any way possible. Some other traders who spoke to TVC News said the fire could have been contained if there was any functional emergency response system in the state.
We called fire service, we went there, waiting for them to respond. Nobody responded.
All right, that's in Anambra State. Let's move on to other places now. As part of efforts to reduce the cost of governance, President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday approved a directive for ministers, director generals, and other top government officials to submit travel plans for clearance. In a statement by the media aide to the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Willie Bassi, all ministries, departments, and agencies are now required to submit their yearly travel plans to the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation for express clearance within the first quarter of the fiscal year before implementation. According to the directive, all travel days will no longer attract payment of extra code allowances, as duration of official trips shall be limited to only the number of days of the event, as contained in a supporting document to qualify for public funding. Some of the directives also states that without approval from the President, ministers, permanent secretaries, chief executive officers and directors in the ministry are restricted to not more than 2 foreign travels in a quarter. When a minister is head of a delegation, the size of delegation should not exceed 4. Also, he said that all public-funded travels, both local and foreign, must be strictly for official purposes, backed with documentary evidence. Every other delegation below ministerial level shall be restricted to a minimum of 3. The directive was issued less than 1 week after President Buhari barred his cabinet members from foreign trips until the budget defense as the National Assembly is over. Now, journalists in Nigeria are increasingly becoming exposed to attacks from all angles, especially from top government officials and security agencies. A report by Amnesty International tagged Endangered Voices, Attack on Freedom of Expression in Nigeria, disclosed that 19 journalists have been arrested and detained illegally by security operatives in 2019 for playing their roles as the people's watchdog. Of all the cases, 2 have dominated the media: the arrest and detention of the publisher of Sahara Reporters and former presidential candidate Omoyele Sowore by the DSS, the arrest and detention of journalist and activist Agba Jalingo by the police over an article he published seeking the whereabouts of 500 million naira approved and released for floating a microfinance bank in Cross River State. And outside Nigeria, Britain and EU have struck a deal to take the UK out of the bloc on the 31st of October in an orderly fashion. Prime Minister Boris Johnson held the agreement, but now faces a battle to get the deal through Parliament on Saturday. The deal by the DUP, which says Mr. Johnson is being too eager by far to get a deal at any cost. European Council President Donald Tusk did not rule out an extension to the Brexit deadline if it is rejected in the British Parliament. Now, Turkey has agreed to a ceasefire in northern Syria to let Kurdish-led forces withdraw. The deal came after U.S. Vice President Mike Pence and Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan met for talks in Ankara. All fighting will be paused for 5 days, and the U.S. will help facilitate the withdrawal of Kurdish-led troops from what Turkey terms a safe zone on the border. It is unclear if the Kurdish forces will fully comply. A commander, Mazlum Kobani, says that Kurdish-led forces would observe the agreement in the area between the border towns of Ras Al Ain and Tal Abyad, where fighting has been fierce. And that's it on the news update for this hour. The weather forecast is up next.